Texas held a scrimmage last weekend that brought the stars out. We got a lot of Texas recruiting to cover, and Justin Wells of Inside Texas is here to deliver the juice today. But before we get going, Texas fans, do me a favor, lock in, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. All right, let's bring in Justin Wells from Inside Texas. We'll start with some of these elite wide receivers on campus, and the action is, it's here with Dakorien Moore. You guys put in a flip pick for Dakorien Moore over the weekend. He was visiting. How optimistic are you about this development of Moore potentially flipping to Texas? And when could we expect some action?
Yeah, we're pretty optimistic. And to tell you the truth, we've been optimistic for a while. You know, when you commit early in your junior year, that team becomes the target. So instead of recruiting the kid, a lot of times I think schools, fall in the trap of recruiting against the school, recruiting against LSU. And that's tough in this cycle. Bryce Underwood, Harlem Berry, Dakorien Moore, they've been incredible. But with Dakorien, I think there's a sense of staying closer to home is going to be the way to go. I don't think anything's imminent. I feel like he's solid at LSU. I feel like he could see himself playing at LSU if he needed to. And as you and I have discussed before, the season's got to play out a lot of times to see what happens in November and December in that early signing period. But for Moore in Texas, it just makes too much sense. He's been there too many times. He's become so much closer with Steve Sarkisian and Chris Jackson. His mother, his family has become close to this staff. He's supposed to return for the spring game if he can get out, if he can finish up his regional track meet that morning. That's going to be iffy. He'll be back in Austin likely late June for his official visit. He's going to be at Ohio State this weekend. Steve Wiltfong posted that yesterday. He's going to be there. Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, LSU. Those are really the four schools that have kind of maintained that consistency with him. But again, he'll tell you, he's solid to LSU, but if you talk to people behind the scenes, you talk to people close to him, and don't forget, there's a contingent of Duncanville Panthers in Austin right now. Sure. And one of the biggest recruiters of this bunch is Colin Simmons. And the fact that he can go watch a scrimmage and watch his former teammate making an impact as a true early enrollee freshman speaks volumes for Sark and the culture in this program.
Yeah, it's got to have an impact. Some of that peer-to-peer recruiting, we always see that effective on the trail. Now, we'll see what happens with his commitment to LSU. More visits ahead, and I don't think this one's coming down to any final decisions anytime soon. Now, there's another in-state five-star wide receiver, Khaleke Lockett, on campus. Are you feeling more optimistic right now about Dakorien Moore, who's committed to another program, or Khaleke Lockett, who remains uncommitted at this time?
I feel very good that Texas is going to get Dakorien Moore. With Khaleke Lockett, I think it's going to come down to numbers because there are so many good receivers in this cycle. And I think Texas only wants to take 3, maybe 4. If they can push the number to 4, I feel like Coach Jackson probably will. I think because they just took 3 last cycle. But that's the thing with Khaleke Lockett is that I think Texas, it's going to be Texas versus the field. I think the Horns have really established themselves as the school. Khaleke has been attending, recruiting events in Austin since he was a freshman. And I actually talked to him and his father on Saturday afternoon about it. And just the fact that he went from a freshman with no stars and no offers to a 5-star and a priority for the Texas staff, it really is a fun story to follow and unique. Khaleke is such a special kid, such a special talent. He's going to be, I believe, LSU this weekend for the spring game. He's still got, Michigan in the mix. USC is pushing for an official visit. A&M is still giving him a hard sell. But I think right now, especially after this weekend, it's probably Texas versus the field. I think he wants an August decision. A lot of these guys want to get their spot before their senior season starts. And so I feel like Khaleke's probably going to make that call in late summer. But right now, I like Texas. And if he comes on this official visit and gets the same vibes, I think it's Texas versus the field for Khaleke.
Okay. 4-star wide receiver Jamie French said after his visit, quote, Texas is no doubt in my top 3 now. They weren't before I came. Definitely top 3 now for sure. Ohio State and Tennessee are the other 2. Now, Jamie French said this coming out of his Tennessee visit about the Vols. Now it looks like he's booted all the Florida schools out of his top 3. Are you buying the hype of Jamie French in Texas right now?
I'm buying a little bit of it. Listen, Jamie French is delightful. He is a joy to speak with and catch up with. You talk. He makes our job fun, Josh. He is a really interesting kid. He wanted to see what Austin was all about because Sark and Coach Jackson have been really pushing. The staff has been really pushing to get him on campus. They blew him away. And he said, ultimately, he said this 3 or 4 times, it's the people. There's a culture in Austin that's addictive right now. And Jamie French felt it. Now, he's going to take an official visit to Texas. He's going to take an official to Tennessee. I believe he's also going to try to see Miami as well. But I think Ohio State is still the team to look out for here. But I'll tell you this, Texas is more in the mix now than they were 48 hours ago.
Yeah,
72 hours ago, rather. I think Jamie French is going to take his time. He's going to go through it and try to figure out what's best. Former Alabama commit. Don't forget KJ Lacey was on campus. That's a friend of his from Saraland in Alabama in Texas Pledge. And so there's a little bit of connecting there. I think that they had the receivers kind of had a good little inner battle. Who's better, Texas high school football wide receivers or Florida high school wide receivers? French enjoyed doing that. The biggest takeaway for me was they got him on campus. They blew him away. They're going to get him back in June. And then I think we'll start to see what this recruitment looks like probably in July. But they're in the mix. I think Ohio State still has a hair of a lead. I think they still kind of have a little bit longer of that relationship. They've kind of been in it a little bit longer. But if you let Sark and Jackson make up ground here, make up slack, French is a realistic option. And I think they absolutely blew away this trip.
All right, let's move on to a couple other top targets, not at the wide receiver position that were on campus. We'll start with Jonah Williams, the #1 linebacker in America. We talked about him last week, trending heavily to Oklahoma. Do you feel like Texas has made a dent in that lead that Oklahoma's had?
Yes. And I have an RPM pick to Oklahoma.
Right.
So we are watching this one closely because yes, Jonah Williams in Texas, there's something there. I think Oklahoma got the early lead. And we discussed this last week. You know, early in the year when I was on the road, I couldn't tell you how many times I was talking to kids and they were mentioning Oklahoma. The Sooners had a lot of momentum. They had a good little vibe going. They built up some good rapport with the offensive linemen and DFW. They just looked really good. Add the fact that Jonah Williams is a baseball player and will play baseball at the next level. Oklahoma checked a lot of boxes. Texas has caught up. That not only did Jonah get to watch the scrimmage, he got to go over and hang out in the baseball facilities and talk to David Pierce before their game with BYU on Saturday. If you want to get in the Jonah Williams sweepstakes, you better recruit baseball. You better build up the diamond because, you know, his older brother Nick was a baseball prospect for the Philadelphia Phillies and Texas Rangers. If you've watched him, he is a tremendous left-hander, center fielder, pitcher. He's tremendous, but he's also one of the best athletes in the country. He can play safety. He can play linebacker. Hell, he can play receiver. He's that talented. Texas made a dent. They made an impression on him. And so where that goes from here remains to be seen. I think this recruitment is just now starting to kind of open up. Again, I have an RPM for Oklahoma. I feel a little – I don't feel as confident about it now as I did last week. But Texas is chipping away at this. Blake Gideon and these guys have made him a priority. And whether or not he picks Texas remains to be seen. But, yeah, Oklahoma had the lead, and Texas is definitely coming for him.
Okay. Well, how about Michael Fasusi from Louisville, Texas, #5 offensive tackle in America, and he recently was in Athens, and there's some optimism coming from Georgia that they're in a really good spot for Fasusi. Are the Dogs a real threat to Texas?
Yes. I think the Dogs are a real threat to anybody. If Georgia has some stroke on this recruiting trail, Kirby Smart has some skins on the wall. This is one of the power programs. Kirby might be the power coach right now with Saban and Harbaugh gone. And so Fasusi, understand about Fasusi, he really enjoys the recruiting process, and he doesn't let it get to his head. He is such a fantastic kid with a fantastic family. I was able to catch up with him yesterday. He was on campus at Texas on Tuesday. He took a one-day unofficial. Loved it. Got to watch practice. Got to sit in on meetings with Kyle Flood. Got to do a lot of one-on-one with Flood and with Coach Sark. He brought his father Ebenezer. They were able to connect as well. He's going to be coming back late June for his official visit. early on, it was Texas, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M. I feel like for Susie, Missouri got a visit, blew him away. Georgia got a visit, blew him away. And so I think really right now we're kind of going to the mean. I think with the fact that he loves the process, I think he's going to continue to take these visits. I think he's going to continue to look at schools and make sure he makes the right decision. That being said, I still think it's a Texas OU battle. I still think with his relationship with Kyle Flood and Bill Bedenbaugh at Oklahoma, he absolutely loves those two guys. And the fact that he's such a family kid, he's so close to his family, he's got the opportunity to stay close if he needs to. And so OU, Austin, within proximity of Louisville High School, but Georgia, if Georgia starts pushing, this thing might take another turn. Yeah. Missouri made a big impression. Texas A&M is a sleeper, I think, in this recruitment. And so at the end of the day, we posted at InsideTexas.com. He absolutely loved the trip. He loved watching Kelvin Banks, the starting left tackle. He can envision himself as that left tackle when Banks is gone. He's going to enroll early. They run similar schemes at Louisville that they do at Texas, so he feels like the transition would be easy. I really like the horns here, but the more you mention Georgia, the more you mention even Oklahoma and A&M, this recruitment's still got a ways to go.
Yeah, starting to heat up. It'll be important to see who he visits later this spring and then into the summer. Does he make it back to Georgia? Does he make it back to Missouri? Those visits will be telling. Speaking of visits, Jordan Davison, he's been trending everywhere but Texas, but he was on campus last weekend. He's from Mater Dei High School out there in California. Can Texas reel him back in? How are they sitting with Jordan Davison after this recent visit?
I think they can. I got to catch up with him Saturday evening after the visit, and you know the message from Texas remains the same. You're our number one back. You're number one on the big board. And Davison loves that. He has gotten so close to Shard Choice over the last year. Texas is going to be in this recruitment no matter what happens. That being said, Ohio State has some momentum. And with Coach Loughlin headed to Columbus, I felt like that gave them another box.
Right.
And I'll say this. If Ohio State wins out, I'm going to say it's because of the depth chart. Because Texas has a big room of running backs. Like Choice has gotten two backs the last three cycles, it feels like. And so they're stockpiling that running back room. Whereas if you look at Ohio State, they're going to be missing two of their guys after this season in Judkins and Trayvon Henderson. And so I think Ohio State has an advantage with that depth chart because Jordan's paying attention to that. He's just like any other highly recruited kid. He's looking at numbers. And Ohio State's bench is a little bit more enticing than Texas is right now. That's not going to be the end-all decision. He'll be back for his official visit in June. Texas is going to be in it. Michigan's going to be in it. Alabama's going to have a say. But right now, I think it's going to come down to Texas and Ohio State. I feel like Ohio State still looks pretty solid, but Texas did what they needed to do with Davison when he got him back. You know, can just remind him how important he is, how much of a priority, you know, stay on him. But at the end of the day, if it comes down to data points, I think the depth chart at Ohio State is a little better looking than Texas right now.
Fair. All right. The last prospect I want to hit on is probably the one prospect that was on campus over the weekend when it was heading in that I had on commit watch is Zion Williams. He's a priority defensive lineman, and he had a great time at Texas. Now, I don't know if this would have resulted in me having a great day, but here's how I know Zion Williams had a great day. This is what he said, quote, "Okay, here's what I've had today. For breakfast, 5 of those chicken sandwiches, then ate an entire bag of crawfish, 2 burgers, some chicken tenders, side of tacos, 2 things of cookies, and ice cream, and got some more snacks for the road." So Zion Williams clearly loved his visit to Texas, brought the family with them. Was I wrong for maybe thinking he could potentially commit over the weekend, and how did things go?
I would never tell you you're wrong, Josh. But it is a little early for Zion. He's going to take his visits, I feel like, into the summer before he makes that decision. Look, LSU had pulled rank. Bo Davis had built this foundation in Austin. That's why he loved Texas so much early in his recruitment. He takes that momentum to LSU, and it carries over. And then he goes to Baton Rouge twice in the last 2 months and loves it. So Texas had some catching up to do, but it was really the Kenny Baker show. Because if Zion is a relationship-centered type kid, one of the nicest, most genuine kids I've ever covered in this job. Down in the piney woods of Lufkin, him and that coaching staff at Lufkin do such an amazing job with their kids year in and year out. Zion's just the next one. 6'5", 315, 320. Unbelievable. Posted a picture of him and T'Vondre Sweat after practice.
Yeah.
He's looking down at T'Vondre Sweat. Just to give you an idea, that's a 17-year-old, Josh. Texas pulled back in. Like this is a Texas LSU battle right now. Now look, there are going to be other schools in the mix. Texas A&M's is going to get an official visit in June. TCU is going to get an official visit in June, and don't forget, or late May rather. Don't forget their defensive line coach Jamarcus McFarland is from Lufkin, is actually related to Zion, so he's got a connection there. But you said it. I talked to him I interviewed him for probably 10 minutes, and then I talked to him for another 20 minutes after the interview. And he was just elated. Like he wanted some questions. He had some questions answered. He really wants to know who's going to coach him up. And Kenny Baker absolutely killed this recruitment. He brought him in. He said all the right things. He connected with him on a personal level, on a professional level. And again, that's going to be how Zion makes his decision. It's going to be relationship based. That's what's going to be the final call for him. I think this is an LSU and Texas battle. I think Texas pulled even with LSU. I think they had some slack to make up with it, and they did that. He'll be back again. Like I said, he'll be back. I think he's going to try to come back for the spring game on April 20th. We're not sure if that's going to happen for sure. He'll definitely be back in June for his official visit. I'm curious when he takes his LSU official because he hasn't scheduled it yet. To me, that's going to be an indicator of kind of where this recruitment is going because Texas definitely got the momentum back. If there was one player that had a better time, that they made a bigger impression on, it was the 4-star Zion Williams. I mean, this kid is incredible, and Texas did just a fantastic job. And I got to tell you the truth, when he went through that menu, I was just in awe. And the fact that he had his pockets stuffed with snacks for the road. Like I was just blown away, but his family loved it. His little brother loved it. And with Zion, he's family oriented. You connect with that group, you do well. And so I think of all the prospects this last weekend, Texas hit a home run with Zion Williams.
Yeah. He saw the menu and said, I'll just have that. Zion Williams is clearly built different. All right, so all this intel just came from a scrimmage weekend. There's more big visits to come in Austin. Inside Texas does a phenomenal job of covering all things football and recruiting. Go check them out right now. Justin Wells from Inside Texas. Appreciate you dropping by the Inside Scoop today.
Appreciate you, Josh.
Thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoyed that, go check out the hundreds of videos that we have on this channel, and also do me a favor, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel.